Figure sketches at Maxim Grunin Art. Today I'm doing this exercise where I'm looking at photos of figures of children just playing and doing just regular activities, and I'm looking at the figures of these children, and I am picking scenes that look dynamic and interesting and maybe not too complex, so that I can look at the photo and I can start sketching the figures onto the page. And I just have loose pages of paper clipped onto a clipboard, and I'm using a ballpoint pen, a black ballpoint pen. The reason for it is it's like I tend to get myself going. I tend to be more inspired and more focused if I start with an exercise, if I do an exercise that I want to do. So I'm itching to draw something, and I want to feel the fine quality of the ballpoint pen with the drawing with it on a piece of paper. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna draw with a ballpoint pen because it sounds like a fun idea and I would like to do that. And then I choose the subject for the warm-up exercise for the sketch. I am all right. I always move between figure, wildlife, landscape, abstraction, and I usually move through. With my practice, I include all of these different subjects, different areas of subject matter, variety. So figures of children are interesting. They are it just seems that humans appear natural, doing activities that are fun for them, that are human activities, like playing with toys or hanging out with friends as children. So, hence the choice for this exercise. So I am lightly drawing major shapes in, and then I'm going back and further refining them. So let's say I've taken the palm of the hand, and now I am extending the darker lines, the shadows to the arm. I am picking up on the shadow within the sleeve of a t-shirt of the figure. I am trying to use a range of light and dark contrast, and the range is between dark, then to mid-tone, and then to fairly light tonal range. So if I am kind of saving my darkest bits for the shadows that are absolutely like the most dark, like cast shadows under the figures, or maybe definition of dark within the eye, maybe a bit of a dark definition within the shadow of the shirt sleeves, or bottom area of the arm, bottom area of all of the objects, so that the light is distributed from top to bottom. And then let's say I complete the sketch, and I'm wanting to explore further the kind of image that I can create. Maybe I want to play around with a little bit of gray paint and see how I can add another background other than white background that is efficient and quick to fill with paint or a marker, and would take a really long time and would be not as fun and not as efficient to fill with a ballpoint pen. So I went ahead and I mixed black and white to create these varieties of gray. And again, with gray I am setting out to do neutral midtone first and see what that looks like. And it seems to me that the image of the kids with the foreground scene kind of popped forward after the background was unified and made to look all kind of medium gray. Then these bright white drawn shapes of figures with the gear that they're playing with these hoops that they're placing on top of sticks to create pyramids. That all of that scene is extending forward. So now I'm adding a little bit of a black outline to the figures and the shapes, forms that are drawn, and I'm also adding a little more heavier shadow on the bottom of the arrangement of figures, so to bring them together via this dark shadow that's sitting underneath. And also that shadow creates more impression of a form. And then the outlines went not everywhere, but just on the very outer area of the figures and the objects, so that I can still have some wonderful kind of pen drawing lines visible. And let's say this is a session of figure drawing, figure sketching. This project is the outline of the project is to sit down and spend an hour or more developing my drawing skills. And drawing skills involve observation and ability to use the medium, like to use this ink, black ink of a ballpoint pen, to do the work of creating the image. So I start really carefully to develop the face of this figure by drawing very light and like faint lines really carefully, because there is no erasing here, and because it's a rough sketch, so it doesn't require to be anything other than a rough sketch, pretty much. A sketch is a drawing that is completed over a shorter period of time, and it has expressive, lively mode of production of the image. There's some roughness that's left after drawing a sketch. And when oftentimes with extended drawing or a several hour drawing, or like the more hours that go into the project, or the more ambitious it gets, the more refined it could be, etc. Well, here I am carefully and yet quickly kind of lightly starting. I indicate an object, and then I kind of bite into it, kind of dig into it. So if I have like a general shape there, I can craft a little hand, like fingers facing a certain way, and then I can continue to darken and define a little bit more carefully the rest of the faint preliminary drawing, until it gets a bit of a definition, a bit of a character about it. And it is possible to tell, oh, there is a figure of a child examining or building an object in the front, and the child is laying down, so it's clear what the action of the figure is and what they're doing, and the details about the figure. There's all these individual components like hair and attire and stylistic things. And then there is another figure beside, also playing with a toy, and perhaps one is a male figure, male child, another is a female child. It doesn't really matter, but I'm trying to portray, I'm trying to reflect through expressing images, creating expressive images. And the beauty of drawing exercise or sketching exercise, the beauty of it is that there absolutely is no real rules. It's just me creating. I am choosing what I want to draw. I am choosing what tools I'm gonna use on my artwork. I am showing up for myself, taking time, and really just participating in a wonderful activity. So once I drew the figures, I again went back in with black paint to outline them a little bit, not overly. I wanted to preserve immediacy, expressiveness, so I want to outline at the same time, not to be too precise, not to be too careful, so that this is a distinct and has a look of a handmade drawing, handmade artwork. And so I then mixed a lighter gray, and I did up the background, and then I decided that the drawing was complete and served the purpose of my exercise and what I set out to do. I noticed that this sketching or preliminary or sketchbook content or exercises, they're so essential for keeping the craft alive. So I noticed that when I first start out drawing in a course of a day, my first attempts, they are less flowing, they're a bit hindered, a bit shy, a bit less controlled. I am still not into doing my art. I'm still not into creating. I'm still not up for the task. So these are so good as warm-up routines where I just hang out and do several studies, sketches on the subject of my interest with tools of my preference. Then I really kind of get the juices going within me, like my creative juices. And once I am an hour or more in, I'm starting to notice a big shift in my willingness to create, in my availability for flexing my imagination muscles, for flexing my art making muscles. So this is where the beginning of your painting exercises, the beginning of your day with art, is not as satisfying as the continuation. Oftentimes it's not always true, but most of the time it is. As soon as I warm up, as soon as I'm digging a bit deeper into what I'm doing, I'm starting to come up with looser, more expressive, more satisfying, more creative, more visually appealing, more visually dynamic images And my assessment would be that by the end of this drawing exercise, I've done, let's say, three quick drawing / painted studies of figures, and my second project was already to me better, and the third one, like the face of the boy holding ball or watermelon, it's so much more expressive and with so much less effort that I've done it. And that's it for the day.